Hello and welcome. India reported 24,354 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. That is a slight decrease of 8% from yesterday. The majority of cases were reported from Kerala. 13,834 new cases in 24 hours. India's active caseload stands at 2,73,000, the lowest in 197 days, which accounts for less than 0.81% of the total cases. That's the lowest since March 2020. Now, the national COVID-19 recovery rate was recorded at a 97.86%. That is the highest since March 2020. At least 25,000 recoveries have taken place in the last 24 hours. That takes the total number of recoveries to 30,68,000. A total of 89 crore vaccine doses have been administered so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. Kerala still reporting the majority of new cases in India, 13,834 and 95 deaths, taking the infection count to 46,94,000 and the death count to 25,000. Delhi, meanwhile, recorded 32 fresh COVID-19 cases, no deaths, while the positivity rate in the city currently stands at 0.05%. There are 409 active COVID cases in the national capital. So, given these numbers, what do we need to know about the spread of the coronavirus, how to protect ourselves and our loved ones, and how to live life as what we thought was normal before? Well, joining us now to answer all of your questions is Dr. Randeep Guleria of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Thank you, Dr. Guleria, as usual, for your time. But of course, the big story of this week was that 10-day quarantine for UK visitors in India's tit-for-tat move, described as discriminatory, colonialist. The UK government has been facing intense backlash over its refusal to recognize visitors as vaccinated unless they receive their shots in a handful of select countries. I know you know this story, Doctor, but I'm just going to try and bring our viewers up to speed in case they don't. The UK had initially refused to recognize Covishield, manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. However, following India's strong criticism of the decision, the UK on the 22nd of September amended its new guidelines, included the vaccine, but did not provide any relief from quarantine rules for Indian travellers vaccinated with 2 doses of Covishield. Of course, this affects thousands of students, Indian students travelling to the UK. Then Britain said that the UK had issues with India's vaccine certification process, not with the Covishield vaccine. Where your thoughts on this entire controversy, given that AstraZeneca and Covishield are in fact the same thing?
Exactly. So this doesn't really make much sense because the vaccine was developed by the UK scientist in Cambridge. It was then given to AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca licenses to Serum Institute of India, knowing very well that the plant is of high quality and the fact that vaccines in the past were being produced by Serum Institute, which was being provided to the entire world. And therefore, now when the vaccine is being supplied, now the vaccine shots have been given, it seems rather peculiar that they are not accepting the same vaccine which has been produced by this company AstraZeneca, which has licensed it to Serum Institute and has actually been developed or invented in the UK. So I think the issues are difficult to understand. And as far as the app is concerned, it's something that we know is very, very good. It's working very well with the number of population that we have. And I'm not able to understand why they have this issue. You're right, it seems to have it doesn't seem to have a scientific basis.
Talking about scientific basis and also the systems in place post that. So when you arrive in the UK, you have to do, I think, at least three tests minimum within a break of, I think, 4 days. Even after you test and you test negative, you still have to quarantine for 14 days, and you're quarantining at home, which means people could be hanging out with their family members who are from the UK, who are then allowed to go out. So does that even make sense from a if you actually want to contain the virus? Perhaps you want to make sure that someone traveling from India or another country doesn't bring it in, but would that actually do the job?
It will not, and that's why it doesn't make sense. One, you're testing too frequently, and just with the hope that you're going to catch asymptomatic individuals, and then you're asking them to stay at home. if you talk to people in the UK, you come to realize that many people are actually not taking this home quarantine very seriously. So there are friends coming over to meet them, or they are
Sure.
having a lot of people at home or partying at home. So the whole concept of not allowing the infection to spread by sort of isolating, quarantine a person seems to be actually of no use. So again, like I said, it doesn't seem to have a lot of scientific basis.
Well, we seem to have a shot in the arm. I don't know if you can call it that. Today, the UN General Assembly President, Mr. Abdullah Shahid, said that he has gotten the Covishield vaccine and manufactured in India by the Serum Institute. Mr. Shahid, of course, is from the Maldives, which was among the first nations to receive the India-made vaccine way back in January, when 100,000 doses of Covishield were dispatched to Male. But the other big story, of course, this week was Prime Minister Modi attending the UN, because of which, of course, last week we didn't chat with you, have our usual weekly chat. But ahead of that trip, India restarted the export of vaccines. Not everybody in India has been vaccinated, Doctor. Your reaction to that? I understand there are international pressures and India has international commitments, but as a doctor, what would you say?
So I think currently, if you look at our vaccine position, we are not in the position that we were a few months ago in terms of acute shortage. We are meeting the demands that most states have, and we are able to increase that because the supply has now become much better. And the whole concept is that unless you vaccinate everyone in the world, you are not going to come out of this pandemic. Sure. And therefore, we have to really try and see how we can help those countries who are not able to have their own manufacturing plant. But the interesting thing here also is that bulk of the vaccine which WHO wants, which is under the COVAX program, which is going to actually be used to vaccinate the most of the world where vaccinations are not available, are also from Serum Institute of India. Yeah. So you have a situation where Serum Institute of India, which is making vaccines for COVAX for WHO and are going to distribute it across the world, is not being recognized by UK. So again, it seems a little paradoxical.
Doctor, I want to move on to the news that has just come in. Kerala is to reopen colleges for vaccinated students from the 18th of October. So that's for vaccinated students, and schools from the 1st of November. Schools, of course, students are going to be not going to be vaccinated. What would you say to this news coming in just now, given the fact that Kerala is still reporting the highest number of cases in India?
So I think in areas where your case positivity is high, you have to be very cautious, because if you open schools, if you open colleges, COVID appropriate behavior is going to be difficult, and you are going to have a situation where crowds will develop, students will meet each other, children will sort of get together. Therefore, unless by that time your positivity rate has come down significantly, I would say that we still need to be cautious, and that is why if you're looking at opening schools and colleges, it should be linked with surveillance data. And if you have data which shows the number of cases are very few, like in Delhi, the number of cases now are less than 50 for many weeks. So here you can argue that yes, the situation is much better, and if you take a risk-benefit analysis, the benefit is much more than whatever minimum risk you may have for opening schools and colleges. But that may not be true for other parts of the country, and that's why each region has to have its own strategy depending on the positivity rate in that area.
Yeah, I don't want any of our viewers to get you wrong. Dr. Guleria has been a proponent of schools opening. He's been saying this for weeks on our show. And Doctor, I just want you to, if parents are watching, your thoughts on schools reopening in major cities, in the national capital, etc. Given the fact that governments are saying it's now okay with the festival season for people to gather in large numbers for festivities, but still they're not okay with opening schools.
So I don't think it's all right for large gatherings to happen during the festive season. Again, I'd like to say that the pandemic is not over as of now. We're in a good position, but that doesn't mean that we are out of the woods. And therefore, we need to be cautious. I think the next 4 to 6 weeks would be very important, because if you are able to keep our cases down or get the trajectory even further down in the number of cases, and our vaccination rate continues the way it is or picks up even further, then we will be in a much better position by, I would say, November, where we would have a large number of people who have been vaccinated, at least got the first shot, and we would have also then come out of the festive season, and therefore the chances of a large number of crowds developing would be much less, and we would therefore then be in a more comfortable position. So until that happens, we need to be a little careful, and therefore for crowds, a lot of celebration during the festive season, whether it be Durga Puja, Chhat, Dussehra or Diwali, one should try and avoid if possible.
And talking about the importance of schools and thus the vaccination for kids, the other big story of this week, a shot for children has gotten one step closer to approval. Right as it is needed the most, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine granted full FDA approval for those aged 16 and above. We don't have it yet in India, but you would advise, if and when we have a vaccine for kids, you would say, what, go ahead to parents?
So I think the vaccine for children will come, and we would have to give it to children if we want to come out of the pandemic, because children will otherwise serve as a pool of individuals who are susceptible, and they could get the infection and carry it home. But if we had to look at limited stock of vaccine and prioritize vaccination, I would still say that we need to first vaccinate all the elderly, all the individuals with high risk, and those children who have comorbidities to begin with, and then move on to healthy children, because there is enough data which suggests that healthy children still continue to have mild disease as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So we do need to vaccinate them, but it's not the top priority that we need to sort of focus on.
Okay, we have to go in for a short break, but let me quickly try and squeeze in headlines about Merck's antiviral pill and how that could be a game changer for COVID-19.
So one thing that we've really not done very aggressively is developing good antiviral drugs. We've had vaccines which have come very rapidly, but most drugs that we had were repurposed drugs. We started with hydroxychloroquine, we had ivermectin, and then remdesivir, and now we have monoclonal antibodies. So it's always good news when you have some antiviral which is being now shown to have some activity which will help to kill the virus. This will be very useful. And I think this is something that we need to eagerly look forward to.
Well, it could become the first at-home treatment cleared for use by the FDA. All right, let's go in for a short break. Doctor, we'll come back with more questions for you after that. Welcome back. We're in conversation with Dr. Randeep Guleria. Dr. Guleria, one of the alarming headlines I saw today was from the New York Times that said, is the coronavirus getting better at airborne transmission? Basically talking about, how the Delta variant continues its evolution. And as you point out, with billions of people worldwide vaccinated, but many millions still unvaccinated, the virus may change in unexpected ways?
Yes, the virus will continue to evolve, and that is why we need to have very aggressive genome sequencing done across the world, so that we pick up any variant which happens, and then we're able to see whether this is a variant of interest or a variant of concern. We saw that with the Alpha variant and the Delta variant. The reason why we had such a sharp and such a huge increase in number of cases in the second wave is basically because of the Delta variant, and of course before that the Alpha variant, which was much more infectious. Before that, what we were seeing was that the variant which was from Wuhan was not causing that much of infection. If you had one person in a family, maybe one or two were getting infected. With the Delta variant, everyone in the family was getting infected. It was so infectious, and therefore there is always this worry that you may develop a new, the virus may mutate, because the virus is also trying to survive and spread. So it will also try and evolve over a period of time and develop strategies of how it can spread much more, and that is why COVID appropriate behavior becomes even more important.
So to reiterate to viewers watching, just because our cases are very low now doesn't mean that this is over. What you're saying is we could still have a third wave if the virus mutates. So if more people go out, I'm just trying to simplify it really for a layman, if people start going out like normal and hanging out in big groups, not wearing masks, not following COVID appropriate behavior, it gives the virus an opportunity to mutate. And then we're back to square one because we have to start all over. Is that correct?
Correct. So there are two parts. One part is that if we don't have COVID appropriate behavior, we allow the virus to spread, and it's a human to human spread. So it will spread to one person to the other. If we allow the virus to spread, and we have increase in number of cases, then we have more viral replication happening. More the viral replication, higher the chance of mutation happening. And if mutations happen, then there is always a chance one mutation may be of the nature that it may actually make the virus more infectious or more resistant to the vaccine, and the efficacy of the vaccine may come down.
All right. And the other big story back home is that I'm not sure if it's gotten enough headlines. Mizoram is seeing a sharp rise in active cases, a positivity rate of over 10% in 8 out of 11 districts, and that 49% of COVID-19 samples sequenced from the state have the Delta variant, which is now believed to be the key driver for the surge.
That's correct. So we are seeing a surge not only in Kerala but states in the northeast also. And although the the numbers may not look that large, but considering the population of the state and the distribution, it is still a cause of concern. And that's why there is a need to be very aggressive there, both in terms of testing, in terms of developing containment strategies, and in terms of making sure that we are able to not allow the virus to spread in those areas. But there are areas in the northeast which are seeing an increase in number of cases, and this should be sort of closely watched, and we need to have very aggressive surveillance in these areas.
And Doctor, increasingly now countries are opening up. Thailand's Phuket, for example, is open to fully vaccinated travelers, especially countries whose economy really depends on tourism. So now you can book holidays to this tourism haven Phuket, the Thai government has announced. What do we need? What do Indians, what would you advise, need to know about travel in a pandemic right now?
So I would still say that unless it is really essential, one should be a little bit careful about travel in a pandemic. I can understand that we've not had holidays for almost 20 months now, and a lot of people are wanting to go out and have a break. But like I said, the next few weeks are crucial. If we are able to have a decrease in our number of cases and get over the festive season, then things would be much better. If one has to go for a holiday, please make sure that you follow COVID appropriate behavior. You are not going into a crowded area. We have seen people who have gone to hill stations and other areas which get crowded and have come back and got the infection. Therefore, traveling to areas where you have mixing of people from different regions of the world or different parts of the country coming to that area is always a little risky, because someone may be coming from an area where already the infection is quite active, and he may bring the infection to that holiday resort or to that area, and then be the cause of spreading the infection to others if you are in a crowded area.
What about flights?
Flights is something that we need to be careful, but I think we have now a little bit more confidence as far as flights are concerned, that if we are wearing a mask and if we are careful, since it's an airborne infection or it's a droplet infection predominantly, and it's not related to the fomites or not related to contact the clothes or the other items, the travel may not be that much of an issue, because all airlines have HEPA filters, and there is a good ventilation, and therefore it's relatively safe as far as travel is concerned.
All right, and lastly, Doctor, not just for our viewers, also for our authorities, for our governments, what should authorities do apart from efforts to ensure no market crowds, etc. in this festival season? Your advice both to governments, administrators and to our viewers. Last question.
I think the government is doing a lot of work in this area, because they have issued advisories as far as COVID appropriate behavior and guidelines for the festive season is concerned. My sincere request to all citizens is to follow those guidelines in the true letter and spirits. The guidelines are all there, but if they're not followed, then it's not going to be very effective. Even now you have guidelines that it's mandatory to wear masks if you go outside, but you just have to go outside and you will see that most people or many people in certain areas have stopped wearing masks. So there are things that you need to actually get people to do, and guidelines sometimes don't work. It's just making people understand the importance of these things when you're going through a pandemic.
Dr. Guleria, thank you so much for your time and just reminding all of us about what we need to do to keep ourselves safe and keep each other safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.